All right, we're live. Yeah. This is the Artcasters. This is the show where we talk about the ins and outs of illustration, cartooning, and graphic design, and mostly cartooning because we're all comic book people and animation people, and so we really love that like pop cultural comic stuff. So anyhow, as usual, before we kind of get into introducing our guest, who I will just give a little teaser. Stay with us while we do our intros because our guest is has a really cool anthology featuring a lot of people that were formerly in the hundreds community, which is really near and dear to our hearts, and also just within our inner circle of like kind of Artcasters folks. So I'm really excited to have him on. But before we get to our guest over here, we're going to kick it off by just letting people know where to find us and our work, and then we'll introduce our guests. So you're on my channel. That's where you find me. If you haven't yet, hit subscribe, hit the bell so you get notifications when we're about to go live. Actually, honestly, as everybody's introducing themselves, you should do the same to their YouTube channels because Artcasters bounces from all of our channels. So make sure you do that. That's a good way on top of the newsletter that Scott will mention at the end of the show. And then other than that, I have a graphic novel out called Jacob's Apartment. I'm just going to focus on this one. I have another one called Two Stories, which you can order. But Jacob's Apartment is like a strange mashup of if you took Eternal Sunshine for the Spotless Mind and Ghost World and put them in a blender and you like that flavor, that would come out. This book would be your cup of tea. It's a doomed romance comic book that's slice of life about these two characters, Jacob and Sarah, coming of age and struggling like for ways to find their identity on top of dealing with some major like early young adult life crises. One loses their father, the other is going through a breakup. They end up having interweaving dreams and reality, and it's a pretty cool 130-page full color graphic novel out from Graphic Mundi. And if you look carefully on the spine, it's offset printed because it's got those little signatures. That's always a good indicator that it's offset. So it's a beautifully printed book and worth your while. And that was my attempt at a short pitch. And now Scott is going to school me on how you do a proper short pitch because I'm awkward at pitches. Scott, where can people find you and your work and your potentially upcoming Kickstarter?
Yeah, you can find my work at circworks.com. You can also find my videos and everything on my YouTube channel. Just search Circworks on YouTube, SERKWORKS. And so, yeah, like Josh mentioned, I do have a comic book and a Kickstarter that I'm hoping to launch. Probably now it looks like it'll be more towards the end of this month. But I'm waiting on a variant cover, and I just talked to the artist today, and he's ready to get started on it, and I should have the first sketches, and I'm super excited because this is Eric Henson, who we've had on the show, and he's just a brilliant artist, so I can't wait to see what he comes up with. He's like going to give me 4 different sketches to choose from, and I have a feeling I'm going to have a hard time. But anyway, so once that cover is all done, everything else is in place, and I will launch the Kickstarter for Young and Dead, which is my kids versus zombie adventure story. It's kind of like meets Night of the Living Dead. So just be aware. I'll keep talking about it, and I'll let you know when it launches. So yeah.
Okay, and is that my connection or Scott's connection? Did you hear robots, Corey?
Yeah, I think it's Scott's.
Okay. I don't know.
There's a little bit of roboting out. But yeah, make sure you guys are following Scott's stuff. He has a Kickstarter coming out just in case some of that, for Young and the Dead. Make sure you're following Circworks on YouTube, and obviously, Circworks everywhere else. There is social media. Just to recap what he said a little bit. Corey,
if that continues, let me know, and I'll maybe log off and reboot or something.
It seems.
Yeah, I think if it does, you should start talking as though you are a robot from a 1950s. Like, start saying exterminate and all sorts of like cool robot stuff.
I think that's a robot.
What's up?
A robot.
Oh, a robot. I love it. All right. Speaking of robots, robots will soon take over the world and destroy our economy and put us into a dystopian future. And if that sounds awesome to you, then Corey Kerr's work is right up your alley. So, Corey, where can everybody find your work? And it's not all dystopian. I'm just joking, but you guys should actually check out Corey's work. Where can everybody find your work, Corey?
Yeah, so I will be coming to an ER near you soon. I'm trying to tour as many of those as I possibly can, and you can find my work at CoreyKerr.com. I haven't been able to keep up a normal schedule for the last little while, so slowed down a little bit. But I'm on Instagram, I'm on Twitter, and I'm on YouTube, and I've got 600 or 700 videos up there. So if you've felt like you haven't got enough of me recently, you can go back into my backlog of work and check that stuff out.
I absolutely adore it, and I recommend Corey's channel. If you guys are trying to learn like After Effects or animation too, like Corey just has one of the best. His channel is like a literal resource for that kind of thing. So you should go check that out as well. All right, so and also I just had this last minute thought, Corey, that it would be funny to do a video where you're, instead of like doing a book signing, you're like, stop by room 5 in the ER and I'll do cast signings. I'll be signing casts from about like 1 to anyhow. All right. So, CB Smallwood is our guest. I'm going to kind of touch on a little bit about the anthology and the topic, and then we'll obviously ask you, CB, like where everybody can find your stuff.
Okay.
But just to kind of kick off the conversation, so CB has an anthology called the Wildcat Anthology, not Wildcats, because he's not wanting to get sued. Wildcat Anthology.
I'll probably get sued anyway by somebody. There's a lot of Wildcat out there.
It's true, but it's kind of like a character that CB I think developed at a pretty young age, and he's obviously going to get a little more into that. And a group of his friends and fellow cartoonists have sort of all contributed their own story about this character that he invented, and they compiled this anthology called the Wildcat Anthology, and it's super cool looking from what I've seen. It's up on Indiegogo right now. And let me go ahead and put the link to that just so where was that? Oh no. Okay, banners. Hang on a second. And I'm going to go ahead and put the link up so you guys can go support it, because it definitely needs your support to kind of happen. But it looks really cool, and it features a lot of people. I was really happy to see, like, I'm going to just mention one, but like Jan is in there, and like Jan's been a friend of the show for a really long time. And he's a killer artist, and it's cool to see his work appearing. And I know there's just like a slew of other creators, so we thought it would be cool to have you on to kind of talk about a little bit about the Kickstarter, of course, and tell us a little more about that, but also to tell us kind of like what it's like, because this is a character that you kind of created at a young age, like to kind of let others play in your sandbox. And I think a lot of us have just started kind of collaborating with other people and kind of doing that. So it's a really interesting topic, and I think of note to like a lot of us on the show. So Stevie, why don't you tell us about, I guess first, like a little bit about yourself and then about Wildcat Anthology. So yeah.
Phew, let's work off the pre-show jitters. I've been quiet this whole time like Kevin Smith, and so I'm going to try to get in a rhythm here, Okay, well, first about me, of course, my name's CB Smallwood. I'd say I've been drawing comics seriously since, and when I say seriously, I'm not trying to emphasize, I mean like taking it serious from 2017. And that was around the time that my son was born. And up until that time, I was drawing some pages here and there, crappy pinups, that sort of thing. But when he was born, it kind of put things into focus. It's like, okay, shoot, you need to start getting serious here, because it's not going to get any easier from here on out, And to some in some ways you want to have something, a legacy to pass on to others, but something to pass on to him should he, want that as well. And so that kind of motivates me. And so in 2017, I'd wanted to do a YouTube channel for a while, and it's like one of these things like, well, I'm not good enough, what can I show other people to do? There's always somebody that can do it better than how I can do it. And, a thousand different reasons. And then I honestly don't know how it happened because I don't remember pivotal moments in my life, just a few of them, but most of the time, a lot of the stuff that people ask me about later, I can't remember how it got started, but somehow I must have happened across the 100 Days of Making Comics on YouTube. And, or maybe somebody actually popped up into one of my prior videos and mentioned it. I don't know. But I happened upon it. And I was like, this is perfect. I don't have to be perfect to have a YouTube channel. And as I get better, people can watch me, maybe encourage me, maybe discourage me. Who knows? But I can just be me and be the best version of me that I can. And it was perfect, because it gave me a chance to work on my portfolio. It gave me a chance to become better as an artist. I was very loose with the rules of 100 Days of Making Comics. I just wanted to make it work for me. And the main thing I wanted to get out of it was a good portfolio and maybe a comic, and just get better overall and get to more of where I wanted to go. And then after...
sorry, real quick.
Yeah.
For anybody who may not be familiar with the 100 Days of Making Comics, do you want to just kind of explain to them, like, most people in our community will know, but just in case somebody's tuning in for the first time.
It's been a while. We probably got a lot of new viewers who might not be familiar.
Yeah. Do you want to kind of explain a little bit about like what that is?
Me or Scott?
We can tackle it too.
Okay. Is it Kevin Cross?
Yeah.
Okay. Kevin Cross created the 100 Days of Making Comics challenge. It was a personal challenge for him. And correct me if I'm wrong in any of this, but I think at the time when he made the challenge, he was working on comics and things for other people. And he wasn't really passionate about those things. He had stuff that he was passionate about that he wanted to work on himself, but he never made the time for it. So I think he noticed one day that there was there was all these fads for 100 days of losing weight, 100 days for this and that. And so he decided that he would create the 100 Days of Making Comics challenge, where for, I think it was 100 days, bare minimum 30 minutes every day, he would work on his comics, and he would later, every single day, upload a video of him working on his comics, or maybe talking about it. I don't know. And so that way, in theory, people would hold him accountable because, he had an audience that could hold him accountable, and that kind of took off. Other people saw that and they really liked the idea. And so they started doing the challenge for themselves. And then it blew up into this big thing. And by the time I hopped on board, I think the challenge had already been going on for like maybe 2 or 3 years. I'm not for sure, because I started around 2017.
Nice.
Yeah, I remember when you started. I was watching your videos.
Oh, awesome. Thank you. Yeah.
Yeah. Back then it was like anytime somebody started, I tried to check out what they were doing. Because it was really going pretty good for a while there.
Yeah, there was a lot of momentum, a lot of people hopping on board, and it had a life of its own. And it's a really good movement. I still like it. The only reason that I'm not doing it now is when I did my 100th video, I basically finished what would have been the Wildcat first issue. Pretty much, I had the pencils and inks done, and I may have started on the colors. I'm not for sure. And I kind of viewed it as like American Idol. It's a great platform. Anybody can get on the show. And whether you make something out of it or not, it all depends on you and what you bring to it. And I felt like I did what I wanted to do with it, and then I just wanted to. After it gave me a kick in the butt. That's what I like about 100 Days of Making Comics. It gives you a kick in the butt, and if you need constant kicking, then by all means, everybody keep doing it, including myself. But then if you don't feel like you need that extra kick, then you can just go fly off and just keep going.
Yeah.
And I viewed the 100 Days of Making Comics thing as something that you could take and you do whatever. Break all the rules of God and man if you wanted, just as long as you accomplish the goals that you set out to do. That's the way that I chose to interpret it, so I could get the most value out of it. And I don't know, I really enjoyed it. I recommend people that have never done it, try it. I'd say there's still a good community out there. I've not been active in it in the last little bit, but a lot of people that came from that, they're in the Wildcat Anthology. There's people in the Artcasters that were involved with that, and all kinds of different groups that you can find on Facebook. So it's, I love it. I'm proud that I was a part of it. And I was also very, very proud that I actually got to be in the 100th Anthology Volume 2, which was my first published comic book work.
Awesome.
Oh, nice.
Awesome.
Yes.
I did the cover for that. And
yes.
the story and forward. All
the cover looked great. The cover looked great and everything. It was, the theme was pretty cool. And I remember some of the people that put it together, to their horror, everybody really latched on to the werewolves, unicorns, and other mythical creatures, because everybody was submitting unicorns and werewolves. And I did a whole story about nothing but werewolves and unicorns. So they had to remind everybody, you can do other creatures. There's other things you can put in there other than werewolves and unicorns. But yeah, that was really, I was so honored to do that. I felt like I got in there by the hair of my chinny chin chin, because I was largely unproven, and my art can be pretty good sometimes, and other times probably shouldn't show nobody.
Well, the thing about that particular anthology, and the thing I like about that whole idea, was the only criteria was that you completed the 100 Days of Making Comics challenge.
Yeah.
So what was really cool is you got a chance to just get different people at different skill levels and different points in their artistic journeys and everything. There were some, more established people. There are people that are just starting off, and it would be like, it wasn't like gatekeepers. And the only gatekeeping tool that was put in place was that you have to do this, you have to have completed this challenge, which is good, because the main thing we wanted to make sure everyone turned in their work, because as you're working with that, doing your own anthology, I'm sure you realize that sometimes it's hard to get people to everyone getting their stuff in on time and everything like that. So the fact that we already knew that people were able to deliver on something that they promised to do. So I really thought that was, I really had a blast doing that. And it was super fun to do those first couple anthologies. I wish it was still going, but I'm not sure.
It could pop up at any time, because I believe, a great idea can outlive its creator.
Yeah.
And all the people involved with it, if it's truly a great idea. And I think it is a great idea. And one of the best things that I got out of it, other than all the stuff that I mentioned, is the 30 minutes a day.
Yeah.
It's like, shoot, you have 24 hours in a day. Take 30 minutes out of it. You got 23 hours and 30 minutes left.
Yep.
There's no reason why you cannot commit and find at least 30 minutes. When I was working on the Wildcat Anthology, I would bring my portfolio to work with me. Sometimes I probably should have hit it, because, people's like, is he really working at work? Or, but every spare minute I had at work, every lunch or whatever, I'd be sitting there and I'd be working on the anthology, probably longer than what I should have in terms of like how long it took to get most of it put together. But yeah, you can make the time. If you're really passionate about what you're passionate about, you'll make the time. And 30 minutes, I feel like, is the bare minimum. And, if you can do more, that's what you should strive for, but get at least 30 minutes every day. And it's really crazy how much you can get done in 30 minutes.
Yeah.
That's the biggest takeaway I got from it. And I encourage everybody, you know, whenever I talk to people that's just kind of getting started or want advice, you know, if they happen to talk to me, I always tell them, try to draw 30 minutes every day. That's you know, if you can make drawing a habit, I feel like, even though I shouldn't be giving advice, I feel like you can make it a career. If you can make drawing a habit, then you can have a career. And the best way to do that is at least draw 30 minutes every day.
Well, you certainly can give advice on that because you've done it. You know, once you took the challenge and you did it, which puts you in a position where you can definitely give advice on that. So
it did. I feel like I wouldn't be where I'm at this moment if it wasn't for that. So it's pretty cool.
Yeah, I think I love it. I remember Kevin and I talking about that because like that 30 minutes, it's good. Like 30 minutes is the start, and it's great, and it's good to build that daily habit. Corey and I used to do like the 48-hour art check too, as just like an accountability thing to make sure we were working on art daily.
Yeah,
I think the idea of building daily routines and daily schedules and like discipline to kind of like pursue these things, it's so essential. And it's like, it's one of those weird things, like even when I used to teach college, you can't teach people, but they can kind of train themselves, like to kind of have like self-discipline to like show up and do it. And like when you do that, it's strange, but that 30 minutes very quickly becomes like 2 or 3 hours or 4 hours. It becomes like very, it grows and it builds the kind of like dedication that's required to kind of make stuff, which is kind of
the
awesome.
confidence too. Yeah.
So I'm glad it had that effect on you. I think it did for a lot of us. Okay, so let's get into Wildcat. So where does Wildcat come from? Like when did Wildcat start? Because I feel like from what I've heard, like it started a little earlier than when you seriously started comics.
Yeah.
How did Wildcat how did that originate?
I'm going to say Wildcat goes back to maybe 4th or 5th grade, and that was back in the early 90s. One of the earliest drawings I found of him was dated back in 95 maybe, but I've got earlier stuff back when he used to have more of a Spider-Man-ish type of look. But he's always had this Wolverine-ish type of thing, saber-toothish type of thing. Listen, I don't confess to being original. I just want to tell great stories, you know.
Yeah.
And you know, pretty much Wildcat from that point all the way up to now is an amalgam of everything that I loved growing up in the 90s and all the way up to now. Some stuff, you know, in terms of comics, obviously, you know, Wolverine, a little bit of the, you know, Incredible Hulk, maybe some Spawn elements, and a little bit of dash of Ghost Rider, a lot of you know, the things that went in the Image and Max. Love the Max. So there's that stuff. There's things in movies and television, you know, like a lot of John Carpenter stuff, you know, like Escape from New York, Escape from LA, the trauma films like Toxic Avenger, A Dash of the Crow, you know, not the comics, the movies, because I never really read the comics. Not because I didn't want to. It's just, you know, if it wasn't on the spinner rack, I didn't get it. But all these things, you know, cartoons, you name it, comics, a whole bunch of stuff that I'm leaving out that I'm just not thinking of. It all just kind of mushed together to make Wildcat. You know, I guess Cable was probably an influence, and gosh, I don't know, a whole bunch of stuff. So I cobbled them together from the 90s all the way up to now, adding stuff to him and making him a dark character and what have you. And in 2017, when I was doing the challenge and all that stuff and doing the videos, a friend conned me into, it's like, hey, you conned me into drawing, you know, my character and doing a book about it. Why don't you draw Wildcat, you know? Because my good buddy Will Avenger, you know, he you know, he's got his own character, and I convinced him to do it, and he pressured me into it, and I was like, all right, well, it's only fair. So about midway through the challenge, I guess I started drawing that. I shifted from doing portfolio work to working on the comic, and so anyway, from there, I later did an Indiegogo for the first issue of Wildcat, which was penciled, inked, and colored by me. I didn't get a chance to letter it. It failed, crashed, and burned, mainly because I actually did a poll on it, and everybody said that it's largely because I didn't hear about it. But now, for anyone wondering as to what's the kind of backstory about Wildcat, what makes him interesting? Well, visually, he's got gray skin. He's got these razor sharp black talons. He has this rock arm, this big red rock arm. He has a cybernetic eye that does all kinds of wacky doodle stuff. It can crawl out of his head and the whole 9 yards. He heals really quick, of course, and he's really strong. And his personality is Wolverine-ish, but it's also a mix of like Ash from Evil Dead, so he finds himself in ridiculous situations. He doesn't always own up to them, and sometimes he does. And as far as like his origin, after the anthology's said and done and it's in the can, I'll do the rebooted first issue, which would be 10 times better. And his origin is basically these 6 or 7 mysterious figures back in the 80s poisoned him with uranium. They tricked him, and he ingested some uranium, and he wasn't able to heal quick, and so they basically ganged up on him and managed to slaughter him, tear him to pieces. And before they buried him in the ground, they blew his brains out. And then later on, to present day, this girl named the Fox, she gets into trouble. Her name's not the Fox. She wears a fox hoodie, by the way. This all takes place in a small town in Kentucky where weird and strange paranormal stuff happens, and it's a little mix between Phantasm and Walking Tall. Drugs are rampant, and it's crooked and the whole 9 yards. And so the Fox ends up in the middle of it, and somehow, as she gets into trouble in the woods at this forbidden graveyard, Wildcat comes up out of the grave and saves the day. And he has no memory of who he is, or where he's been, why he has a cybernetic eye, why he's got these weird face tattoos, why he's got this rock arm and these sharp talons, and he heals fast, and he's strong, and he's got these weird animal urges, and he hunts and kills things at night, and he doesn't know, he can't explain any of that. And so as time goes on in the story, people in the town don't quite like him, they call him names. They kind of give him the treatment like in Blazing Saddles. And he earns the nickname Dead Man or Lazarus. And he ends up being called Dean Lazarus. The reason he's called Wildcat is because all these people come out of the woodwork once they realize he's alive, trying to kill him or trying to get something from him. He doesn't know who's good or who's bad. But, they often refer to him as Agent Wildcat, or Wildcat for short. And so that's kind of direction we're going in. It's a lot of creepy stuff and stairways that go to nowhere in the woods and yada, yada, yada. But the anthology is basically, it's a primer for Wildcat. For people that don't know nothing about Wildcat, you don't need to know anything. You can just pick it up and you can just have fun. And it's 6 different creative teams, up and coming talent, including myself. If that feels kind of braggadocious, I hope I'm up and coming. But up and coming talent, and 6 different creative teams, 6 different stories, and it's really interesting the way it's come together.
Yeah, I mean, like, first off, like, I just think it's fun that it's a character that you created so long ago, and like, I like the influences. I was a big Image nerd before I got heavy into like super like indie stuff, and like to the point where I was like in the back, like there's actually some original Max comics that if you hunt them down in like a long box, like you might see me in it, like in the back, like in the fan mail section.
Is like the
'cause I was
pen pal or the fan art or just
I had
whatever?
a pen pal for like 4 years.
I did too.
through the
I
Max
had a pen
fan
pal.
letters.
Yeah.
Nice, awesome. We're gonna have to talk after the show.
Yeah.
Maybe we had the same pen pal. But yeah, I this is like pre-internet era, so it's like I literally met somebody who was a pen pal who we'd send like letters to each other and mixtapes
Yeah.
and stuff. But that's so funny. So I'm guessing this character is gonna kind of exude a lot of that kind of 90s energy, which is kind of exciting.
Yes.
I think it's really cool to kind of take a character that you made younger and then kind of reattack it like with the skill set and like the writing skills and stuff that you've developed over time, where it's like you can kind of take this character and be like, what if I made that like for real, I think that's exciting. So how does that but it's also a character you've been like living with in your head and in sketchbooks and stuff for a long time. How does it feel to take something like that that's like so like you have a full knowledge of and stuff like that and kind of hand it off to other creators? How does that work? Like how does that feel, like, I guess, at first? And what kind of drew you to kind of do that?
Well, before I answer that, you kind of alluded to something interesting about like, the changes that the character goes through. And, he didn't have a rock arm till 2017. He didn't have 20 ears till that same date and a few other things. And I made those changes because I was like, shoot, man, what's going to make him different from the things that influenced me, And then I got mad because I realized that I gave him a red rock arm. There's Hellboy. And I didn't get into Hellboy until later. But I was like, it looks cool. I'm going to leave it. Forget it. But anyway, to answer your other question about like, having this character that I'm passionate about and then letting people come and play in that universe.
Yeah.
It is a thing, for me, like it, not here right now at this moment, but, all my life, with Wildcat and other characters that I've created, it's like, well, first of all, you don't want to share them with the public. What if they steal it? Oh my gosh. What if they take it and rip you off? And that was always a big fear. I mean, that was a big fear when I first started doing YouTube videos. But I had to remind myself, it's like, listen, if you truly are talented, people can steal off of you all they want.
Yeah.
But they can never make nothing new because they wouldn't steal in the first place if they could. And so if you truly are talented, you're going to have to let that go, that fear that could happen. And so I kind of opened up my zen and my third eye, and it's like, okay, yeah, all right. I accept that. But then the next hurdle that I feel like holds people back creatively, including myself, is the fear of like letting other people play with something that you made,
Yeah.
And when I was live streaming one day, I was working on the rebooted first issue because remember the first one failed, so I was rebooting it to 10 times better, bigger and better than ever. I kind of got stuck at one point in the story trying to figure out what to do. Still ain't got it quite figured out, but I'm a little further along where I was at. But I was just kind of talking off the cuff, and when you talk off the cuff on a live stream, you get in trouble real bad.
Yeah, that can happen.
Yeah. And what ended up happening was like, my hopes and goals and dreams is one day, maybe if Wildcat was actually successful and did good, that I would do a spin-off book, like the Savage World of Wildcat or something like that. And people, I would hire a creative team to work on that and see, I could take my time working on the main book, Wildcat. And what basically it would free me up to draw my other creations, the other books I want to do,
I love it.
And I just keep a watchful eye on what the Savage people are doing. And so I was like, yeah. And then as I was talking, one thing led to another, and I was like, it'd be kind of cool to do an anthology about Wildcat. And all of a sudden, everybody in the chat's like, yeah, I'd like to do that. Well, that sounds pretty cool. Count me in. And it's like, well, what? And one thing led to another, and all of a sudden it took on a life of its own, and I was just along for the ride. And then it was like, okay, Wildcat's a character I'm passionate about, and I cannot be this person that is choking everybody,
Yeah.
telling them what they can and can't do and stuff like that, because you love it and you want to take care of it, and you want to make sure it's protected, and so how can you do it? And so I was going to give it the name, the Non-Canonical Misadventures of such and such Wildcat. So it's going to be right in the title, non-canonical. So that means don't take it serious, And so that I felt like that would allow maximum creativity on the part of everybody to do whatever they wanted, because if it was non-canon, it don't count. I eventually dumped that title. It was kind of playful and stuff like that, but just keeping it short and simple. And what I ended up doing is, and this is kind of related, as people were sending their stories in, one of the rules that I had for everybody is like, hey, when you go to do your Wildcat stories, just do whatever you want. I don't care what you do. There's all kinds of different stuff for Wildcat to fight. If you want him to have him fight something, there's public domain characters, there's werewolves, Dracula, Frankenstein, there's monsters. There is public domain superheroes you can have him fight even, so there's stuff that you can put in there that you don't have to worry about. And then I wanted to free up people's creativity in a sense of like, I wanted them to have no less than 8 pages. And I felt like 8 pages would give them the room to tell a sequential story, but also like if they wanted to go in a splash page or a double splash page, they would have the room to do that. And I also told everybody to go crazy. Like if you want to draw more than 8 pages, that's great. I don't care how many, they want to draw a 40-page Wildcat story, fine with me. We'll put that in there because it was an anthology. So the thicker we make it, the better, And but 8 was the bare minimum, to be able to tell a story, and also to make sure they could tell the story they wanted to. My main priority that I always told everybody and still tell them is I just want you to do your best work. And whatever you need to do that's what you need to do. But as we were putting the anthology together, I'd see these stories and I'm like trying to figure out how this all gels. And then I was like, oh man, I think we're in trouble here because maybe it's a little too bipolar, kind of a little all over the place. So I'm a fan of that cartoon movie that came out called Heavy Metal, based on magazine. Yeah. And I really love the green floating orb.
Explain that for somebody who hasn't seen Heavy Metal. The green floating orb. Sorry, just because I know there's going to be somebody out there who hasn't.
Oh, that's fine. Now I'm not a heavy metal magazine reader, but there is a heavy metal magazine. I believe it was based off of that.
Oh yeah.
There was all these different stories that were in the magazine and stuff. Mm-hmm. And somehow, some way, they ended up doing a cartoon movie, which is awesome. If you've not seen it, you need to watch it. I think it came out in the 80s sometime.
It's great. It's very rad. Like I would just use that to describe it. Like everything that is rad about the 80s is in that movie. And also if you're into like Mobius and like that kind of look that came out of Heavy Metal, it's like, it's just, it's beautiful. So what's the green orb? It kind of connects the movie. How does it do that? Like,
okay, well, so in the movie Heavy Metal, there's like, I don't know, 6 or 7 different stories. One is about a taxi driver in the future that, gives somebody a lift and there's some trouble, very reminiscent of the fifth element. There we go. There's another story about a World War II thing going on and zombies. There's another one about these aliens.
Zombie plane.
Aliens sniffing coke. Just all kinds of crazy stuff. It's awesome. But anyway, to connect it all together, what they had was this weird floating orb that was green, and it was all powerful, and it would float in and out of all the different stories. Now, it's been a while since I watched it, so I can't remember the exact origins of the thing, but it does tie into the last two episodes, in not the last two episodes, but the last two stories in that movie, which kind of explains its origins. And so I thought I like that. So what I want to do is I want to tie all these stories in Wildcat together. I want to make them connected to give them more meaning and also give the reader a little bit more meat altogether of what they're reading. And so what I came up with is Wildcat is captured by the evil Dr. Terror. And he is holed up in this weird Lovecraftian universe world that's between what lays between the waking and the nightmare and the dreams and all that wonderful stuff. It exists somewhere in there.
Nice.
This dilapidated castle in the distance, and Wildcat's held up there, and he's being wheeled in by a gurney by these. Basically, they look exactly like the little what's those little guys that have that big giant machine where they put all that junk in there on that desert planet where Luke Skywalker's at.
Oh, like the Jawas?
Yes, I call them not Jawas because I don't have a name for them yet. Not Jawas.
Okay.
And the not Jawas were inspired, honestly, not from Star Wars, but from Phantasm. I always loved it when you could see their faces and, you know, and I was like, yeah, I like that. So Dr. Terror's going to have not Jawas as well. And, but the Phantasm versions. So these little not Jawas are pushing Wildcat on a gurney. He's unconscious. He's got these uranium bonds that are holding him in place, weakening his body, preventing him from breaking free. And they're also elastic. So even if it's very difficult. And they wheel him into the laboratory, and there's Dr. Terror in full robe, and he unveils himself, and Wildcat sees his face, and he's like, would you do kiss a frying pan? And then out of shame, he hides, he turns away, and he puts on his Victorian clothes. He wears Victorian clothes and a golden mask. And he's very regal beagle, British sounding, and comes from a Victorian age. That's not really revealed in the anthology, but he was a man of science who his quest of knowledge took him into our solar system. He was actually one of the first people to do that. And having done that, it disfigured him and frozen his body in the place where he's neither dead nor alive. And
Nice.
Anyway, Dr. Terror is looking for this mysterious object called the Azkani Shigorn. The Azkani Shigorn, which is a terrible name, but that's what I went with. Originally,
That's okay.
it was Shiggoth.
I love it.
But the Azkani Shigorn, it's a thing that you cannot describe of incredible power. And he doesn't even bother to ask Wildcat questions as to where it's at. He knows Wildcat knows where it's at.
Sorry, Robert Johnson just named your Jawas in the best. Instead of not Jawas, you just call them the Jawa knots. That's pretty good.
I like that.
And then he also said, I've been there, neither dead nor alive. Good times. Okay, sorry. Continue.
No, that's good. That's good. I like the Jawa knots. Hang on. Never let a good idea go to waste.
Yeah, that's a pretty good one. Yeah, and I will say, I've definitely noticed that during live streaming, where if you're just riffing, you can end up with, I have a stupid story that I might actually have to make that's just developed in live streams with the community. And it's weird how quickly that happens, where you're like, well, this was just an idea, and now, you want it to be a reality, I think that's really cool. I also there was one other thing I wanted to mention, just as a little shout out. Shout out to David Hartman, friend of the show, frequent guest every Halloween, and directed the sequel to Phantasm. We've had 3 Phantasm name drops during this stream, so I wanted to give a shout out because I know David watches the show, friend of the show. So you have a fan. I mean, you have a lot of fans, but still, one's here. All right. Anyway, sorry. So CB. Okay, I let's get back to the Oh my goodness! Now I'm blanking where we are in the plot. We're. Do you guys remember?
Dr. Terror has a Wildcat in his custody, and
Yes.
talking about the Azcani Shigorn.
Oh, the Azcani Shigorn, which is the funny name, and then you were going to explain it. So let's get into that. Yeah, because I didn't want to go backwards to the Jawa knots. So okay, Azcani Shigorn. Let's talk about that.
Well, okay, so it's a mysterious thing, very powerful, and I want to keep it mysterious, because I can give it away because it's fine.
No, don't keep it mysterious. I think that's a lot more fun.
Well,
You guys should find out by buying the Wildcat Anthology and supporting it on Indiegogo.
Yeah, it's part of something much bigger. It's part of something that makes my whole superhero universe work. It is something that makes the improbable probable, the impossible possible, the possible impossible, the in reverse. It makes everything they don't even know exactly what it is. And
I
it's
love
very,
that.
very, very, very beyond it. Old doesn't even capture the word of what it is. And so Dr. Terror knows that Wildcat has it or has had it or knows where it's at. But the thing is, this is not the first time Wildcat's been in Dr. Terror's custody. He just doesn't remember it because, this is a realm that exists between dimensions, between awake and sleep and nightmares and everything in between. It's a strange place. And he's been doing this a while, trying to get this information. So he's quit asking Wildcat where it's at. What he does instead is he just experiments on him to try to find out. So he's drilling in his head. He is hooking him up to machines. At one point he's like, I'm just going to bypass all this and I'm going to go straight to something that's more reliable. So he hooks up to his cybernetic eye to get recordings. So each time he does this, he's getting nightmares from Wildcat. He's getting visions, hallucinations, memories, fantasies from the cybernetic eye, a recording of something that actually happened, and even other dimensions, And so because of that, that's what connects all these 6 different stories together, because each one of those stories is either a hallucination, a memory, anything.
Nice.
And at one point he gets frustrated and he takes a hammer to Wildcat's head because he feels like he subconsciously is thwarting his attempts to find out where it's at. And even though Wildcat consciously seems to have no clue. And so in the story, I have a story that is connecting all the stories together. So I'll do like 1 or 2 pages and introduce somebody's story, their story's told, another 1 or 2 pages of this Dr. Terror story. And eventually, after all their stories are told, I wrap it up with 10 pages of the Dr. Terror story, where we take it to its conclusion. And I also contributed like a story I did that involves chainsaw ninjas.
I love it.
Yeah,
You got to have chainsaw ninjas.
Yeah, they're chainsaw ninjas. Like, well, basically in Japan, there is this clan, this clan of Yakuza gangsters and stuff like that, and they have ninjas. Well, when you fail so miserably in this clan, the only way to redeem yourself is you must become a chainsaw ninja, and you wear bright yellow clothes, yellow garb as a ninja. But the only weapon you're allowed to carry with you is a chainsaw, which is very, very loud. And so basically you're sent on suicide missions. You desperately in vain try to use your stealth at the last moment. But if you survive and you take out the target, then you are redeemed in the eyes of the Yakuza. And so that's the whole idea behind the chainsaw ninjas. And one of the stories that I told, Wildcat was just trying to get a pop or something, and they found out that he was alive, and so they're hunting him down. And then the Tom Selleck Shogun Samurai shows up.
Wait. Sorry, you got to explain this. The Tom Selleck Shogun Samurai. I love this character already.
Well, Shogun Samurai, it's like, I had the Chainsaw Ninjas, and it's like, I need to up the ante, like, even though the visual's pretty cool, it's like, I need to give him a big baddie to fight. So I just kind of, farted something out. I think it turned out pretty cool. It looks very Eric Larson like.
Yeah.
He's got these gauntlets. It's got spikes all over him. He's got these boots with spikes all over him. He's got this big weird bladed helmet, and he's just sharp stuff all over him. And he's got this big handlebar mustache. And I affectionately call him Tom Selleck, Shogun Samurai. But I'm, that's my nickname. But Shogun Samurai might be, what I actually go with.
I feel like you should really just name it that because it's so fun. Like, I don't know if you're familiar with like Axe Cop, where it's like a lot of the premises they just kind of go with and then take kind of seriously, even though it's like super, there's literally a character named Axe Cop. I mean, it's kind of amazing. But so why not?
Yeah. Well, one of the things I was going to do is that I want to steal from as much from Stan Lee as possible. Stan Lee was an awesome, nowadays people argue about like, whether or not Stan Lee stole from Jack Kirby and Steve Ditko and the whole 9 yards. And that's pretty well documented. And I don't want to get people upset about that. But to me, that's I think Stan Lee's contribution shouldn't be looked at as a writer, but as a showman, he was the Steve Jobs of Marvel Comics.
Yeah.
You take Stan Lee out of it, you don't have Marvel Comics. You still have talented people telling amazing stories, but like it was the first time that you started giving credits to artists and writers in comics. I mean, there's probably been other times, but he was among the first to do that. And you was not just Jack Kirby, you were Jack the King Kirby, Stan the Man Lee. And when he would talk about his heroes, it was never just Hulk. It was the Incredible Hulk. It was never just Spider-Man. It was the Amazing Spider-Man. That was he was a showman in everything he did. And another thing that he did that I'm going to put in this book is basically he gave pet names to his characters. So, somebody would be fighting Spider-Man, they would call him Webhead. Or Spider-Man would call maybe Juggernaut Shellhead.
Yeah.
You don't really see that much in comics anymore, or even in Marvel. So I want to continue that. And so in my book Wildcat, I think Wildcat's going to refer to Shogun Samurai as Tom Selleck.
I love it.
Samurai. But yeah, basically I'm going to be introducing characters like, Shogun Samurai, the Chainsaw Ninjas, Dr. Terra, the Jawa Knots, and Fish Boy. Kind of curious how that'll take off. They put Fish Boy in there. And a lot of this stuff is going to reoccur later on in the Wildcat ongoing thing that I'm going to be doing. And so I feel like this anthology is going to be a really cool collector's item because you're getting all these 100s anthology and indie creators, veterans that's going to be working on here.
Palmiotti's in that too, right? Peter Palmiotti.
Oh yes,
yeah,
yes.
Friend of the show too. And
Robert Johnson, who's in the chat.
Robert. Yeah,
Abel Parsons, he's a Arizona guy. I know Abel.
Hell yeah.
Oh man, it's so many wonderful people's in it. I'm really blessed that they decided to hop on and do it. I'm very thankful.
So go ahead.
Okay. I was just gonna. I'm curious to go into kind of the, the topic where you've got your, and you alluded to this a little bit, but you've got this character you created, and a lot of people will keep that close to the chest. Like, I don't know, but I mean, offering other people a chance to do pretty much whatever they want, I'm guessing, with your character.
Yeah.
And I just think that's kind of a cool thing because I think it also helps inform. Somebody could come up with cool ideas that maybe you hadn't even thought of as the creator.
Yeah.
Like, I'm going to integrate this. This is a part of a story. Because obviously you see that with mainstream comics, Marvel and DC, because there's a big turnover as far as artists, and each artist that comes in, they add their own thing to it, and some of those things take off. Todd McFarlane goes in and draws the eyes real big and the spaghetti webbing, and that becomes part of Spider-Man. So, but with indie comics, I don't know if that's as prevalent, as having other creators work on your character and everything. So I'm just a little curious, what it's like seeing, putting that directive out and getting people to work on your book and seeing what comes back and what that feels like to have other people work on your character.
Well, the as far as like the attachment to the character and freeing yourself, like letting other people babysit your youngin. Because it is your child, but at the same time it's not, and so you kind of have to. The way I did it was where all these stories are either visions, hallucinations, fantasies, nightmares, maybe some are memories, some are recordings. And so I can, pick or choose which ones I think are canon, or I could leave it up to the readers what they think is canon, because, he's being tortured on a table. So we don't know. The only thing we know is canon is the Dr. Terror part. And, but the rest of it is up to interpretation, because I purposely did it that way. It frees everybody up to have full creativity to tell the stories they wanted to do, because
it's like a what if premise,
I felt like if I approached it from the mindset of like, okay guys, you need to do this, and this, I felt like it would suck the fun out of it. And the other thing is, I wanted everybody to do their best work. Now, some people may actually do better work if they have somebody like, I want you to do cha-cha-cha-cha-cha. But I feel like maybe more people may actually do better if you just like do what you do best, So like if you're a guy that's really good at drawing amazing cars, then go draw amazing cars that Wildcat's riding in. If you're a guy that likes big explosions, put some explosions in there. Go to town. If you like splash pages, put those in. If you don't. I just want you to shine and show people what you can do, and have fun. Fun's important. What was that last question? I forgot. It kind of went blank.
Oh, just what it's like to get people, what the feedback and what, when you get those pages back, when you see what other people are doing with your character.
Like seeing other people's takes on your character,
Well, I was really, really blessed. Before the anthology, I actually had people do fan art, and I don't like that word. I don't hate the word, because I feel like, said in the wrong context, it sounds like, well, that's some nice fan art. No.
Yeah.
To me, it's like an awesome tribute. It's awesome visual tributes, what it is. And I've had people do, I'll just use fan art because it's widely understood. Did some fan art of Wildcat before the anthology. And it's just like, when you see it, it is mind blowing, because this didn't exist before you drew it and thought it up, And here's other people coming in and they're drawing it. And sometimes they take a little bit of their own spin to it, but most stayed 100% faithful. And it's like, when I first started seeing fan art of Wildcat, it was like he came alive for the first time. It's like he's now his own entity. He's like, he was spoken out into the world, and now the world has taken him, and I own the rights to the character, but he doesn't belong to me anymore, in a weird way. He belongs to everybody now, because now that he's out in the world, everybody can sit and daydream stories about Wildcat. They can sit and draw stories about Wildcat. I can't stop that, just, like they try to publish it. Who knows? I don't know. But like, as far as their own, it's like he's out there now. He's his own entity. And it's like, when I see that stuff, I'm so extremely flattered and humbled by it. And it's just like, it's amazing to look at something that somebody else has drawn, and it's Wildcat. And look at that. You know, it's like I didn't even have to con them into it. They just did it. And with the anthology, it's like a whole nother level because
Yeah.
I got 6 different creative teams. I'm one of them, and it's like a total of 10 people, unless I'm mistaken, that worked on this book, are working on this book. It's over 75% done, and you know, they're telling stories, and they get it. They get the whole concept of Wildcat. You know, like it's crazy, like how much they nailed the character. All these people did, because, and I don't, it sounds dismissive when I say people. All these people, all these awesome people did, because largely what they know about Wildcat was from my live streams, and
Yeah.
they were listening. You know,
That's awesome.
and they put that stuff that I told them. They took elements from the failed first issue of Wildcat that they saw in live streams, the stuff with the eye crawling out and the shooting laser beams and stuff. They incorporated that in their stories.
Yeah.
And then, you know, and then when I typed up, I didn't type up, I actually handwritten it. It's very crude. I did like 3 pages of like basically anything anybody wanted to know about Wildcat for the contributors. So that way that they could, you know, if they had any questions, it would answer it, you know, like this and that, and why he does this and that, so they would know. But it's just amazing, you know, going from the fan art to these amazing people that's contributed to the story, up to this anthology. And it's hard to believe, and you know, I don't take it for granted for one moment. I say that a lot, but I can't stop saying it, because I you know, it could be somebody else that and somebody else's character that's getting all this love and support. You know, I love everybody that's contributed, and I can tell that they have some love for me as well. And it's
Yeah.
wonderful.
That's got to be kind of stunning. So you said something at the top, and I think this relates to playing in the sandbox a little bit too. But it's like you were saying, so it kind of starts like you're working for real on this Wildcat thing on your live stream. There's
Mhm.
sort of almost like a joke put out, like, oh, well, maybe like, or like a daydream kind of thing put out. And then it became a reality very quickly. But I also like when you were describing what you were saying on your stream, where you're like, well, I'll just like have an anthology edited and then I can work on my comic.
Mhm.
Has that been the case, or have you had the experience that a lot of people have when they put these anthologies together, where it is like I mean, compiling an anthology is a lot of work. Have you found that at all? Like, or has it been somewhat organic in like kind of getting it together, getting like everybody's stories together, getting it all stitched together, or is it just is the secret of anthologies that they're always really hard to do?
It's been a combination of organic and extremely stressful.
Yeah.
The stressful part really has kicked in the last 2 weeks, but you know, before then, this is another thing, another approach I took. So not only did I want people to do whatever they wanted with Wildcat, tell whatever stories they wanted to do, and whatever approach that they wanted to do, and free up their creativity so they can do their best job. But I also I went blank. What was the question?
So it was about the work behind getting an entire anthology kind of organized and put together.
The organicness. Okay, so
Yeah.
I'm back where I should be now. Sometimes I
Yeah.
go blank. Sorry.
No worries. I do too.
So I wanted to keep it organic and keep it light. It's like I didn't want to hound nobody.
Yeah.
I didn't want to torture anybody. I I had the deadline set for, gosh, I don't know when I first had the deadline for everybody to have it finished. Like it might have been like 3 months, 3 or 4 months. I don't know. Could have been 6 months, and then that deadline came and went. I was still working on it. Everybody was still working on it, you know. And so I just bumped the deadline up, and I kept bumping the deadline up. And, you know, that's not super professional to keep bumping the deadline up, but I just wanted people to focus on doing a really good job. And the other thing that I did was I didn't really police people. And I say that respectfully, you know, because editors have a very, very tough job. And essentially what they do, one of the things that they do is they have to police a lot of the people that work on the book. You know, it's like, hey, are you doing this? How much have you got done? Are you doing it in this format, that format, and stuff like that? But my thing is, like, you know, I've got my own stuff that I got to work on for the anthology. And if I feel like, to me, I'm not going to treat anyone any different than how I would treat myself.
Yeah.
Well, I shouldn't say that. I'm a little bit tougher on myself, but you know, if I'm giving myself leeway, I need to give everybody else leeway too.
Yep.
And the other thing is, I just feel like you're an adult, I'm an adult, we're all adults here. You know what you need to do, and I felt like, you know, when it came time to it, you know, because you know, I've got all my stuff penciled and inked, and it's roughly about 32 pages. So I've done 32 pages in the anthology. 8 of those is with another contributor, B.W. Sims, who wrote an awesome story about cybernetic bears.
Nice.
Cybernetic polar bears, correction.
Nice.
Yeah. And, you know, and then I did my, I think 12, my math is probably way off here, but like 12 odd pages of the Chainsaw Ninja stuff. And then the 20 pages of the Dr. Terror stuff to kind of put everybody's stories together into one thing.
Yeah.
And then, so just trying to give, I felt like, you know, unless I was finished with that, I'm not going to expect anybody else to be finished with their stuff.
Yeah.
And, you know, things are wrapping up pretty good. I'm the most unprofessional person in the world, apparently. You know, I was looking in my Google Drive, and I saw that Jan had all his pages done. He had them submitted in June. I was like, when did this happen? Shoot, it was on the ball. And
Jan is like, from what I've heard, he's a guy who doesn't blow. He never misses deadlines.
He did awesome. I love his Rick Leonardi, Perezzi, something else mixed in style.
Yeah,
it's very, wow, it's cool. But yeah, that's pretty much the approach I took to putting it together.
That's not a bad approach, right? Because I think that editors sometimes, like the best editors I've worked with, like right now, my book editor, I absolutely adore the one I'm working with currently, because they just, I send roughs as I get them done. They just give feedback. Like the only thing they'll ever mention is always improving the story, and they're never micromanaging. Like I'm not getting a ton of like follow-ups because they don't need to. If it gets to that point where it's like way after deadline or something, then yeah, I'll probably get a couple emails, you know. But I think that's a pretty good approach, because I think, and I can kind of tell just from some of the people who've contributed in the chats, like they clearly are still fond of you after going through this like anthology, or some of them might still be kind of in making the pages for it. And it's
the jury's not out yet. Let's wait till the book gets out and see how everybody feels about me. But everything's still good so far, I think.
Yeah, and I think I guess my point is just like I think that like people respond well when you have faith in their work. You know, I don't know, Scott, like you recently kind of had people playing in your Sandbox for an upcoming Kickstarter too, for, you know, guest covers, drawing your characters.
Yeah.
So like, you know, like in your approach to it, are you kind of like going like, this is what you have to do for these covers, or like, how are you approaching it, Scott? Because I know like, for me, I felt very micromanaged during I'm just kidding.
Well, with your cover, I wasn't even involved. I didn't even know what was happening, because it was Josh's cover. It was a birthday gift to me for a couple of years back, or it was a couple of years back. Yeah, so I didn't even know I was getting it. I'm like,
So controlling, Scott. No, I'm just kidding.
No, I mean, I think, and Corey, I mean, and Corey, did get a, I kind of gave Corey. No, actually, Corey's a different story too, because he actually already had sort of a design in mind too. But like some of the other covers I did, like I was talking to Eric Hinson today for his cover, and he was asking me for, what do you want? So I gave him a couple, things that I wanted, but I was saying I don't want to influence you too much,
Yeah.
And the other thing that I said is that it doesn't have to be, because each artist is doing a different issue, and it didn't have to be a scene that was actually in the book. It could be inspired by that story, So I said, this particular issue, it's got the kids are in this ice cream truck, so I'd like to have that kind of feature. Same thing, Gary Hodges, who did a cover. I said, I kind of like, I don't know if I mentioned a specific car, but I did mention a couple characters that I wanted in it, because they hadn't really been featured in any of the other covers that much. So I said, yeah, I kind of like these characters. So I just give a little bit and then have them run with it. But I think it's a totally different story when you're, just having somebody do a cover versus what CB's doing, where he's actually having them write entire stories and everything.
Yeah.
And really,
I'll tell you a secret.
Yeah.
What I did is I turned in my cover, and then immediately went to the ER, so that everybody would feel really bad about giving me any feedback at all. So
Yeah.
Actually, I did give Corey a few corrections and things. So, but yeah,
You're like, Corey would be good, but can you just next time you draw this, just take like a really deep breath with your broken ribs, just please. That's all. And I need to hear like 5 of them, like that kind of feedback. I'm kidding, by the way. You guys, like, my point was, from what CB's describing, he sounds like he wasn't super micromanagey and was kind of just saying, hey, I trust you guys, you're adults. Like, here's the stuff. I like your style. You do your thing. You do what you do well, and then make it the best thing you can make. Quite often with artists, that is a pretty good method, especially if you're asking them to like write and draw comic pages, And the fact that they all have this connection to the character Wildcat is just super exciting. And Corey, what is that thing you're drawing? I'm sorry, I'm kind of in love with that Gandalf-y head character.
I'm toying with an idea. It's
okay.
Called Ye Old Modernity.
Oh, I love it. Okay, well,
I
kind of like that guy.
Very cool.
So yeah, he's an old Russian Cossack.
So CB, so you've kind of got the majority of this together. Why don't we talk about just a little bit about the Kickstarter, where the Kickstarter's at?
Indiegogo.
Oh my gosh, I called it a Kickstarter again. It's like stuck in my brain. Anyhow.
Well, truth be told, that's where most everybody goes to crowdfund comics is on Kickstarter. But I went with Indiegogo.
Okay, so it's on Indiegogo. The link is down there. I typed that link. Scott corrected me because I had put in the description Kickstarter, and apparently I have a mental block where I say Kickstarter in my head. So you guys do the reverse. When I had said Kickstarter, think Indiegogo. Go to the Indiegogo and support this book. How's the Indiegogo going so far? How is it running a campaign like that? And what are, like, why don't you kind of just go through a few of the, maybe give people just a little bit of an incentive on what's up on the Indiegogo and stuff, and what they get for backing your project and stuff.
Okay, well, okay, there's 3 questions there, maybe 4.
Okay, so let's start with Indiegogo. How's the campaign going?
Okay, it's going good. It started off really good with a couple of sizable contributions, or what do you call that when people couple sizable backers. Might not be the right word, but you get the gist.
Yeah.
From there, it has its peaks where I might get a backer or 2 a day, and then like skip a day, another backer, skip a day, another backer, skip, backer, skip. And we are up to, I think, as of today, 490. I'm not looking at it at this moment, but which is pretty good, but it's not great. I set a $1,500 goal for it, and my logic behind it was that I want to make sure that the shipping and all these weird little things I can't account for are taken care of, because I have a fear of like, well, what if this book gets funded and I don't have enough money to ship it? What if I don't have enough money to print it? What if I get all the books and they're all damaged and the printer doesn't want to print, give me, do the right thing and reprint them, and I have to, pay some other printer to print, just worst case scenarios. So I felt like that was the $1,500 would make sure that everything would be kosher and work out well, at least in my head. Who knows? And also where I've not had I have not had a successful crowdfunder yet. There is a fear of doing it wrong or messing up. So, that's another reason why I had the $1,500 go. And so I have a lot of anxiety about that,
Yeah. Well, honestly, that's like, I would say, like, if you guys are in the chats, like, check out, this is what the Indiegogo looks like. I just pulled it up. It's at 490, and 1,500 is pretty modest for like what you're asking for. I mean, for that big of a book, it's an 80-page comic. I mean, that's crazy awesome. That's a really like decent, reasonable thing to ask for. So let's at least try to kind of kick up some support for this, during, and then of course, if you guys are watching this after the fact, of course we want to support this, because if we don't support indie comics, guess what happens to indie comics? They don't get made.
Go away.
So, and we got a whole community here. So anyhow, I want to see this thing succeed. And do you want me to kind of scroll through a few of the tiers and stuff that's available currently?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, cool. And you can kind of chime in on like any of them. Although I don't want to jump into this too quickly. So Scott, Corey, anything to ask before I kind of hop into this part where I'm gonna talk about all his tiers and stuff?
No, go ahead.
I just have one question. Is this an all or nothing campaign?
Yes. Again, the fear and anxiety of making sure everything's took care of and everybody's took care of. So the way I always do my Indiegogos or crowdfunders is that I have it fixed to all or nothing. So like if this doesn't fund, everybody, Indiegogo is supposed to give everybody their money back and all this other stuff. It's just a clean break, but there'll be no book. Because I don't want to not succeed in my funding goal and be stuck trying to print and ship books where it's starting to come out of my pocket and in a lot of other worst case scenarios, nightmare scenarios, and so that's the reason I have it. I think that's the way to go for most people, at least for me,
Yeah, I think that's smart.
Got it. I think that's reasonable, and like that's again like 1,500. That's not a big ask, guys. We can help this thing get out there. So let me go ahead and put the. I'll just kind of scroll through it and go through it. And thanks, Robert, in the chats for telling me to hit OK. I'll probably be hitting the support this in a second after this too. And then Frank's put a link in the chats as well. So the Wildcat Anthology, here's the rundown. I won't read through all of it because we already have heard the Wildcat thing. I'll read the contributors real quick. So we got RJ Johnston, who's a friend of the show, Zero Comics, The Reverend, My Little Skull, Grant, Peter DeLuca, another friend of the show, Trial by Fire, aka Pad, VW Sims, Wildcat Anthology, Allison McGlone, The Manifested, A Girl in Her Shadow, Peter Palmiotti, Retro Iron Man and Uncanny X-Men, as well as Aquaman, right? So
Aquaman.
yeah. So Lucifer Storm, the award-winning author Ed Gein, Demon Hunter, and Lady Satan. Jan Gott, another friend of the show, and does Phosphor. Also does really good vlogs. You guys should be subscribed to his channel. CB
Yes.
Smallwood, who's obviously on the show. Abiel Parsons, Iwan Jokyo Triono. I hope I pronounced that correctly. Colorist extraordinaire with works too much to list. So that's kind of a rough breakdown of like who's in it. We have like the comic and free digital copy is $25. For $5 you can just get it. So that gives you the comic and the digital copy, which is pretty good. Like $25 for an 80-page comic is not that bad. Digital comic $5. So that again, pretty fair price for like 80 pages of comics. Variant cover and free digital is $25, and that's got like 4 people claimed so far. So those are the tiers. It's pretty simple, pretty down to earth, and then there are perks that'll be added if different tiers are broken. But like if you scroll down through this, especially if you're like me and I think CB, like what he described, like it just feels like a love letter to like 90s comics, like in the best of ways. Like it definitely I'm excited to kind of see it. I'll definitely be backing it probably like once we wrap. I'm not going to do that on air because I don't want people stealing my
And we will be adding some more art to show on the campaign because I haven't got all the contributors art on there yet. When I put the Indiegogo together, I did it in 2 days without much sleep. I had to make the video. I had to make the stupid little thumbnails for the tiers or perks, and I had to setting up the Indiegogo itself is, it's crazy, because you have to find all of this stuff. Then it's like I have to have a routing number. Got to put a bank account in there.
Yep.
And it's all kinds of crazy stuff. You really have to. It takes time to do it.
Yeah.
So like 2 days with very little sleep, and after I got it looking halfway decent, and like that's good enough for now. I'll put everybody else up later.
Yeah, I love it. I'm excited about it. I think that's Jan said nice and straightforward tiers. I totally agree. I think sometimes Kickstarters can be a little overwhelming where they have like too many options. I like it. Very, very basic, very to the point. And I really hope we kind of get the funding for that, because it just sounds like so much fun. And then also just such a cool premise to have this character that you've kind of built throughout the years, and clearly have like a whole storyline and everything built about this character, and have that sandbox that you've just let other people play in is just like really incredible. Anna also said, I agree. I like that simple approach. And then Frank said, I'm entering my info right now. So awesome.
Yeah, I already backed it. I want to see. I mean, like we were talking about, a lot of these people are hundreds alumni. I mean, I know most of the artists and everything, so I'm anxious to kind of see how they handle the character and kind of anthologies are always fun too, because you just got so many different visions.
Well, I will say this, I've got a plan in place that whether the book funds or not, it will still come out. And what I want to do is like basically set up an account with maybe like Kablam or something like that, and or somebody that's print on demand, and anybody that contributed to the book, the writers, colors, inkers, letterists, yada yada yada. Anybody that contributed to the book, they can go and get their own copies printed up. I mean, they have to pay for it out of pocket, but I don't get any profits off of it, or anything like that. They can just go and do whatever they want, print up as many copies, forever, for as long as they're alive. Just keep printing copies. I don't care. And that way they can have something to show at conventions. They can have something to sell on their websites and that sort of thing. I'll probably put this book maybe up on Amazon, since I guess it's thick enough where they might take it. So, it's maybe not the best selling point for the anthology, say it's going to come out one way or another, but I feel like it being an Indiegogo exclusive, it's going to be more of a collector's item,
Yeah.
But it's going to happen one way or another. And, I feel like by allowing and even if it does fund, I still want all the contributors to have access to be able to print as many copies as they want in the future to do with whatever they want, mark it up however they want, because nobody's getting paid. Everybody's doing it, for to have extra copies of the book, which they'll get extra copies from the Indiegogo after the backers are taken care of, kind of like how the 100s did it. But after that, they want to print up more stuff they can, and I'm just very thankful of everybody that's contributed to the book, and I don't know if that's a good way to show my appreciation, but I hope it's taken that way.
Yeah, and I mean, it seems like even the way this book evolved, it's been like kind of a community project, and I think a community solution to the printing and stuff like that is a really good approach. I have to say, I think it's just kind of cool to take. I've kind of often talked to Corey and Scott on this show with multiple guests where we've kind of had quite a few discussions of characters we invented around the same era that you kind of came up with Wildcat. And I've always said on the show, well, what if somebody took one of those characters and just went 110 on it? And with the skills we have now, you take one of those characters and kind of add new things and new development and but take it really seriously, even though it's this character, from that era. And it to me, it's really fun and inspiring to see you did it. A lot of us have thought of doing that, and you actually did it, and that's really cool.
You look at
that you let people play with it.
You look at Todd McFarlane and Eric Larson. Both Spawn and Savage Dragon are both childhood characters that they had. And you can actually pull up the original version of Savage Dragon and the original version of Spawn, and you can tell that you can see that Spawn, that's Savage Dragon, but nowhere near as cool as what they look now, and the cool backstories and everything that came with it, what they added later on,
Oh, for sure. I mean, in all sorts of genres. I mean, I've always told people to check out Jeff Smith's first versions of Bone from even early college, where it's really noodly and loose, and it doesn't look like anything like the Jeff Smith that we all know with these clean, beautiful line art, But yeah, there's something to be said for that, taking a character that you've kind of grown with and bringing it to kind of where you're at now, and also to let people play in that sandbox is just a really cool thing. We're at about an hour and a half mark. Do you guys have anything you wanted to chime in on with that? Before, CB, did we hit everything, every note you kind of wanted to about this, or is there some extra info you want to throw in it for right about now? It's up to you.
Oof! Oh boy, you just threw me the ball, and it feels like a bowling ball.
Oh well,
I don't know if I can hold it, but I'll try.
No need.
But I think pretty much everything's been said, but I just want to remind people that, this is a labor of love. This is a good primer for Wildcat to get you used to the character. It's going to be the first appearance of Wildcat, Dr. Terra, the Not Jawas, or the Jawa Knots, Fish Boy, which, I'm kind of curious how people take him, and a whole bunch of other characters that I've created. This could be the first introduction to some of the creators that's on this anthology to the public, and it's going to be for others, just more work that they're putting out there. And like the way that I pitch it on the Indiegogo page is that, imagine that you're there on the front lines at the newsstand, at the grocery store, getting those first issues of Jim Lee when he was on Alpha Flight and Punisher. Imagine getting those early Jack Kirby issues when he was drawing, all those monster books before he went on to do the superhero stuff, or those love stories, Well, now's your chance. You got 6 up and coming creative teams and one awesome veteran to throw into the mix, and you get the chance to be on the ground floor as each one of these wonderful people out of these 10 people go on to bigger and better things, and you get to have their early work, which has value too. You get the first appearances, you get the 80 page plus, because I'm going to put whimsical ads in this. That's a throwback to like Eerie Magazine and Creepy Magazine and stuff like that. So you're going to get some funny bit kind of ads in it to help balance things out in terms of the page count and how the layouts go. And it'll help me out.
Awesome.
I want to get Wildcat out there. So, and I think you will enjoy it. I'm trying my best to make sure that when you get the book, you're going to enjoy it. You'd be like, well, I think this is money worth spent. And even if you don't, you should be able to hawk it off to somebody else, so.
Yeah, and honestly, the pricing's really good on this Kickstarter. For like an 80-page issue, it's like it's quite a deal. It looks like we got your Indiegogo pumped up a little bit. Hopefully there will be more coming, but that's pretty awesome.
It just lifted weights. It's up to 520 now.
Yeah. So that's good. But thanks to everybody in the chats who supported that. And then if you're watching this after the fact, go give CB some love. This thing just sounds fun. I also will say I'm not even a guy who reads a lot of superhero comics anymore. But the thing that you're describing about your character and your comic are like the things I love about superhero comics, where, I was always the kid who was really into Spider-Man. And particularly because of that, he had a sense of humor when he was fighting villains. It was always kind of funny. There was a serious side to it, but there was also heart and humor. And I love that. It just sounds like you've mixed it's got elements of the Sandman with this kind of in-between world, and elements of the Max, and elements of definitely the quirky humor of the Savage Dragon too, which is also super serious but also super silly. And I love that interplay and the fun of it. And it just sounds like kind of everything that's great about a superhero comic. So you guys should be out there supporting it. And congrats on just kind of getting together a team like that to kind of get your anthology going. I think that a lot of us at some point are going to want to open up our sandbox for other people to kind of contribute to. And I think it's cool to see somebody who successfully did it. So cool. I guess with that, we've been going for an hour and 30. So we're going to wrap. Why don't we start with, I'll start it off and then I'll hand it off to Corey, and then it'll go to CB and then to Scott. So you're on my channel. If you haven't yet, hit subscribe, hit that bell, to get notifications where we're about to go live. And then stay tuned, because Scott is going to tell you a way to subscribe to a mailing list that'll let you know when all of the Artcasters, because it bounces around all over the place, how you can kind of keep track of that. And if you guys haven't yet, after you back Wildcat, don't get this before, after you back Wildcat, consider, maybe go to your library, ask that they carry this book, go to your local bookstore, ask that they carry Jacob's Apartment. But for right now, I really think the best thing you can do is, pick up a copy of Wildcat Anthology. It's a lot of good creators. And for some of these creators too, some of them are very seasoned. Some of them, this might be some of their earliest published work. And that's a very meaningful thing for cartoonists. So you can actually contribute to that and be that person who has that weird, awesome early issue of, I don't know if you guys have seen I Before E, the early indie Sam Keith collection from Fantagraphics. It's you guys could be owning that. So, and those things can have value. So yeah, definitely. And if not monetary value, which is always possible, it's going to have definite artistic value and entertainment value. So go get that. All right, so Corey, where can everybody find your work and watch your animations and keep track of your hospital escapades?
You can go to CoreyKerr.com. And I've got animations there. I've got comics that you can read. I've got other things, T-shirts you can buy and whatnot. So yeah, go follow along on Instagram and whatever else. I don't know. We'll be doing some interesting stuff in this summer if I can get my lung capacity back to normal. So
I love it. You guys should be following Corey, and we do need Corey's lung capacity back to normal. It needs to happen, Corey. It will, I swear. Okay, CB. One last time, why don't you let everybody know one last time where to find the Kickstarter, and then maybe where they can find you on social media outside of that.
You can find the Kickstarter on Indiegogo.
Oh, did I say Kickstarter again? The Indiegogo, you guys. Oh my gosh.
You can find Wildcat on Indiegogo. You know, the way I look at it when it comes to indie comics, when you are giving money to somebody's campaign, either on Kickstarter, Indiegogo, or any other crowdfunder, even on Patreon, what you're doing is you're not just getting a product, you're investing in that person and you're investing in their creations. If you want to see more of that, that's what you have to do, because pretty much everybody that works in indie comics has a day job, a night job, or whatever. And we do this because we love what we do and it's a passion. And if you want us to do more of it, this is how you support us. This is how you do it. And I understand money's tight, things are tight. But if you've got the money to spare, or you think you can wait till payday, don't wait too long. There's less than 16 days, maybe 15 days now to back this campaign. And, you know, if you guys support me, you know, later on down the road, I got more cool stuff coming, more other characters, other books like Monster Patrol. I'll have like swag like this hat. I know you can't really see it, but it's got the Wildcat logo on it. Nice. And this hat used to look a lot better till it made its way in Burger King, and then all of a sudden it got stained and got flattened in the dryer. But yeah, if you want cool swag like that to later show up and made available, this is how you do it, by you know, supporting any way you can. Now, if you want to find me on social media, I'm all over the planet. I really am. I'm on all the social medias, all of them. But I'll narrow it down to a few. You can find me here on YouTube. Just look for CB Smallwood. You can find me on Odyssey, which is awesome. If you're not on Odyssey, get on there now. It's a YouTube.
What is Odyssey? I heard you mention that in one of your videos.
Yes, it is. It is great. It really is great. I know I hype it a lot, but the only reason I still do YouTube is because it's got a wider audience. That is the only reason I'm still here.
Is it a video platform, or what is Odyssey?
Odyssey is basically it's the exact same thing as YouTube.
Okay.
It's supposed to be decentralized. I don't know if they stuck with that or not, but that's not relevant for anyone to really know unless they're really into that stuff. But when you sign up, you get crypto. When you watch videos, you get crypto. Okay. When you follow people, you get crypto. People can tip you crypto in your videos. You can live stream on there. You can get tipped crypto, which is called library tokens. They are worth money. I have like 200 and something now, and I can't remember if that's worth like 10 or 20 US dollars. I'm not for sure, but they give you all these opportunities to earn crypto on there, basically doing next to little to nothing. They will introduce in the future, people will be able to tip you Bitcoin. They can already tip you cash. And it's a wonderful group of creators on there, a wonderful community. Out of all the YouTube alternatives, you know, BitChute's decent, but they have a lot of naughty stuff on their front page, so they shoot themselves in their own foot. Rumble's an echo chamber. And, you know, DTube, what is that? You know, to me, Odyssey is the only real alternative that's come around in a long time. And you can find me on there. Find me on Twitter. Okay, find me on Twitter. And I'm pretty much everywhere else. If you just Google my name, CB Smallwood, You'll see a bunch of stuff you can just click at.
Nice. Sounds good. All right. So we've made the rounds. Scott, where can everybody find your work? Where can they keep track of your Sandbox playing that we kind of referred to a little bit earlier? Or I should say, of people playing in your Sandbox. And then after that, why don't you let people know how they keep track of this mess of a thing that is Artcasters, where we're on Corey's channel, and then Corey's in 50 hospitals, so we're on 3 other channels. And then it's on 10 different channels it's possible to keep track of. So after you kind of let us know about your Sandbox, let us know how we keep track of this mess of a show we do.
Yeah, so you can find, first of all, you can find my videos and everything on my YouTube channel. It's search Circworks on YouTube and you'll find it. I've got a lot of advice for artists, how to make a living doing art and comics. And I've got that series, Making Comics 101, which is step-by-step how to make comics. There's about 72 episodes in that series in total, so it's really in-depth. Pretty much everything you need to know about making comics. So definitely check that out. And then on my website, if you go to my website, if you're not already subscribed to my newsletter, if you join that, I will let you know when the Kickstarter is going to come out and everything like that. And when you join that newsletter, you also get the Comic Maker Starter Kit, which is a pack of digital tools.
How much does that cost them to get that?
That is absolutely free, and it's
That's insane.
It's. I mean, I've had people say, "Yeah, I would definitely pay for this," and I do have other ones that you can pay for that are a little bigger, but the starter kit's nothing to scoff at. It's got a lot of cool stuff.
Oh yeah, so. All you have to do is sign up for the mailing list, and then I get the starter kit instantly, right? That's amazing. It's a really cool kit, you guys. You want to take advantage.
And the newsletter is fun because it's kind of broken up into art, inspiration, and advice. So I show a little art that I'm working on. I give some advice, and then I'll just put out some inspiration for people to hopefully get them going. So get the creative juices flowing and everything like that. So it's a fun newsletter, so definitely check it out. It's well worth it. And the other newsletter that you can join, and it's a lot more simple. Basically all we do is before we go live with this show, the Artcasters, we send out a newsletter and it'll have the link to where you can watch us, because we rotate. It'll be on my channel one day, it'll be on Josh's channel the next day, and when Corey gets back to better health, it'll go back to his channel as well. But it can get a little confusing. So if you just join that newsletter, we don't spam you or anything. It just, before we go live, about 30 minutes, we send that newsletter out. There's a link in the description of this video. So just click on that, join the newsletter, and you will know exactly when we're going to go live, because YouTube doesn't always notify you. So we'll let you know who the guest is going to be, what the topic is, all that stuff. So definitely click on that link. And also while you're there, click on the link to CB's Indiegogo. So yeah.
I love it. Cool. And I'm literally starting the process of picking up one of these anthologies, which I will end after we end the stream. So you guys make sure you go support this thing. Let's make this thing happen. I mean, come on, it's not asking for a lot, and it's selling these comics for a reasonable rate. It's not that much. Sometimes the Indiegogos will ask you for $20-$30 more than retail, and this is asking for pretty much what you'd pay in retail, which is insane for an independent book. So go support it, make it happen, and we'll see you guys on the next. Oh, I forgot to thank everybody. Thank you to everybody in the chats. Thank you to all my new subscribers on my own channel too. That's been really fun to see that count actually starting to increase. Thanks, CB, again for being on the show. And we will see you guys on the next Artcasters, which will probably be on either Scott or Corey's channel. And like Scott said, sign up for the mailing list to find out. All right, we'll see you guys on the next week.